This week, I want to learn some new tricks on the kendama. The kendama is a Japanese skill toy and can be translated to sword ball. It's made up of three parts: the handle, which is the ken, the ball, which is called the tama, and the cups, which is the serrado. When someone gets a kendama in their hand for the first time, there are four tricks they attempt: the big cup, small cup, base cup, and the most satisfying, the spike. Despite these tricks not looking too challenging, they're actually quite difficult to land in the beginning, but when you eventually do, it's a great feeling. I bought my first kendama, this one, back in 2017 when I seen a BMX rider, this guy, play about with one in a video. Kendama began getting popular in the BMX skateboard scene about this time. I've learned a good amount of kendama tricks, but there's still hundreds I've not landed or even attempted. So I had a look on YouTube and picked out a few tricks I've never done before. And the first one I picked was the snake bite. For this one, you need to whip this part of the string out and somehow get it to wrap around the ken. So I got to practicing. I managed to get the whipping motion fairly quickly but didn't have any accuracy. Then I got my first whip around, which didn't last long. I practiced for a bit longer and finally got a secure wraparound, so all I had to do was spike it, which I managed to miss. But minutes later, I got it. Happy with that, I was ready to move on to the next trick. The spacewalk one-turn penguin in. The main challenge with this one was making the ken do the single turn, as it was constantly overspinning, but eventually I managed to spike it. The next day I tried these two tricks again.
But as you can see, I was unable to seal the deal.
Anyway, the next trick ended up doing some damage. The butterfly is a string trick where the tam and ken are swinging in different directions, and your goal is to keep them constantly in motion without them bashing against each other, which happened a lot. But I started getting the hang of the motion at this point and finally got it. Tried it again to try and get a cleaner spike, but the blister I formed ended up busting here, so I took my first land. The next trick I wanted to do was a late goon circle. For this one I got the mat out, and thank God I did, because I clearly had a loose grasp of this trick's concept. I was still unable to get the spike, but the next morning I ended up getting it pretty quickly. Now, I was planning on making the tightrope the final trick in this video. It's considered one of the hardest tricks and is basically where you balance the spike on the string. I spent a good few hours trying to land this trick and got the spike to touch the string occasionally, but was nowhere near being able to fully balance it. It was just too hard, so I gave up. I'm sure if I practiced over the next week or so I would get it, but for now I'm going to move on and tackle that trick again in the future. I wanted the final trick I learned to be more interesting, so I decided to make it a combo. I'm going to start off with a border balance, which is a trick I've done before, but in the past I've only balanced it for a few seconds and want to get a longer one. Then after the border balance I want to do a juggle and end with a switch hand spike. Now I don't know if this is considered cheating, but to make the border balance easier I made some slight modifications. Then with that added help, in 20 more minutes I got it. If you want to avoid going on your phone every time you've got a spare minute, get a kendama. They're really good for passing time, plus you get a huge dopamine boost every time you land something new.